world surrounded by franchises, reboots, and shared universes. An elite team of podcasters will risk body and soul to investigate the depths of intellectual properties, one multiverse, subgenre, and trend at a time. Who are we? We're the IP Squad. Welcome back to the IP Squad, our ongoing investigation into adaptations of the work of Stephen King. I'm John Campbell. My partner for this investigation, Eliott Lewis.
John, please tell me that there are no more psychic teens to investigate.
I think this is our last psychic teen. I think so, yeah. Now, to be fair, I haven't seen that last Pet Sematary prequel, so who knows? Maybe there's a psychic teen makes their way to Ludlow.
Could be, as long as it's not Carrie.
Yeah, as long as it's not Carrie White, actually. Yeah, that's the thing. I'm ready for a fire starter to come in here. And actually, This Carrie is kind of a fire starter based on one random scene that I do want to talk about because it made no sense when Carrie suddenly had pyrokinesis. So, yes, this is it. This concludes our weird trilogy of Carrie movies we've been watching these last few weeks. Here is finally a first viewing for both of us, Carrie 2013. A movie I am viewing for the first time because when it came out, I actively said, I really don't want to see that. So,
me too.
Yeah, this was and I think that was an overwhelming reaction from a lot of the film-going public was, what are you doing? Why would you do that?
Although I did learn that in 2013, it was the among horror movies that came out in 2013 was in the top 5 grossing.
I saw that too. I was looking at the gross. It did pretty well, which surprises me because it pretty much doesn't exist in culture as of now, right? Like no one talks about this movie. But people went, and this is something I think is often true about horror movies. And I think maybe a little bit the case of this. People just kind of go to horror. You know, it's sort of like there's a scary thing out, especially like teens, college age, right? Which we will talk about. This definitely is aimed at kids today. There were several times, several shots, several music cues in this where I'm like, you want the kids today?
Yeah. We'll get there, but the Vampire Weekend prom getting ready montage was just like kind of a boot to the head a little bit.
You're like, God, it's 2013. It couldn't be more 2013.
And MGMT and God, is Take a Walk, Foster the People. It's one of those, I think like
that's right.
Borderline indie mainstream pop bands.
Foster the People might be right. It might be somebody. I'll look here because they do have the soundtrack list on IMDb, which is oh God, it's just Passion Pit.
Passion Pit.
That's it.
That's
yeah,
that one.
Yeah.
And like that's okay. So, but the thing is like I also listened to all of those songs
100%.
in 2013, and also come right up to like 2018, if I'm gonna be honest.
I mean, I probably around 2013-ish, I went and saw Vampire Weekend out at the McMinimans Edgefield here in Oregon, and it was great. So it's like it's not actually the songs themselves. It's that thing about like the WB. Remember when they used to do shows and it was like, tonight's episode of Smallville featured music by this movie of Carrie featured music by. It's almost like, go out and buy the soundtrack, kids. This is what you like, right? It's just so like tossed in this way. There's also,
and it really dates it too.
It really dates it in a weird way, more so than the 70s movie, which is very 70s. But actually feels more timeless in a way because it feels more like a time cap. This is kind of what we talked about when we were talking about that on our first episode. That almost feels like it's so 70s. There's more like a time capsule. It feels more like watching a period piece. Whereas this is just trying to be, we got our finger on the pulse, young folks.
But because it is like it is weirdly like almost a shot for shot remake of De Palma's movie, but also includes things from the book that make the update like they didn't really do enough updating to like make any of it make a lot of it make sense, unfortunately.
No, it's a lot of it's once again, I think it's interesting that we did this, of course, right after we did the 2002 movie, which I think this does a lot of the same stuff as that, but more so. It's more the De Palma, but there's also more moments where it's like, oh yeah, now Carrie freaking out in the shower is on YouTube. You kids like YouTube, right?
But nothing comes of like they show it at prom.
Yeah.
But like there's there nothing comes of it, and it's partly because Carrie, like, I don't know. I'm trying again. We're try not to fix the movie.
Yeah.
Nobody talks about it after Chris uploads it, except for like the meeting with the principal. They're like, "Oh, there's a video," but like none of the students talk about it. Nobody shows Carrie on their phone, like, "Look at this video." But also, she doesn't know what YouTube is.
Right.
A guy has to teach her how to full screen videos in the library.
My favorite character in the movie is Nerd who knows how to full screen video. Because that's the part I would have been up for at this time. And you just got to click the thing. And I was just like, but he gets enough of a like close-up shot and that line. I'm like, is this guy gonna be a kid? No, we never see him again. All right.
No.
Weird that it's just like, I'm just here to go. I'm the IT guy for this high school, basically. Let's click on the thing. There you go.
He's the one that's like filming prom at the end.
I think, too. Which also is 100% me. Once again, just like, well, I'm represented here.
But also, nothing really happens with that either. It's just it feels like just like a bunch of Homer Simpson voice. It's just a bunch of stuff that happens.
It's very true. It is interesting because and now it's impossible to know because once again we can't see this stuff, but this movie was severely edited and reshot according to the director.
That doesn't surprise me.
Mostly to make it more like the De Palma movie. According to Kimberly Pierce, her original cut was 40 minutes longer, which it did not need to be. Because, I mean, I will say one of the only things I can really say about this that really puts it over the 2002 version is it's like an hour 40. That's fine. This thing did not need to go over 2 hours. She said she was forced to excise 40 minutes of footage and reshoot several scenes in order to make them more like the 76 movie. I don't know. You know, once again, that's her claim. There is a very small, not nearly as loud as the Snyder people, release the Pierce cut crowd for this. I think because nobody cares about this in the first place really is probably what helps. But yeah, it is also one of those things where I do... And look, of course people's movies get taken away, but there is always kind of this attitude where I roll my eyes a little bit when a director is like, but my cut was amazing. And you're like... Maybe, but that's really easy to say when I can't see it, you know?
Yeah. And it can be hard to step back from your work and like view it in a even remotely objective manner.
Yeah. Especially because I'll have quotes from her commentary for it throughout this, where I still think just in general thought process wise, she's not on the same page as me about Carrie in general. So I don't know. But I do think if there's some version that was more of a radical departure, that's probably better. Because I would say one of the biggest things for me watching this last night was it's just boring. Because I'm just going like, that's from the De Palma movie. That's from the De Palma movie. And then stuff that's like, that's from the book. But De Palma cut it for a reason or something like that, you know? When it starts raining stones at the end and stuff, and you're like, yeah, this doesn't make any sense.
No. And it's like, there's nothing. Because, like, at least in the 2002 Carrie, like, they have a flashback of her doing the raining stones down briefly as a child, which again, not necessary. Like,
but at least it's contextualized.
Like it's contextualized, and there's like precedent for it within the movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, the other thing is like I think part of the reason that it's so boring when it's like just the De Palma scenes is that like there's not. I mean, the De Palma film is so stylistic. Like
Yes.
it has a very clear stamp of like cinematography and direction and
Yeah.
style and
They
like
got a
production.
filmmaker. I mean, we've talked about one of the things, particularly both the Carrie and Shining movies. One of the things that really made them stand out is they got really established directors who had incredibly strong voices themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So it is Brian De Palma's Carrie. Like that, you could take the name off of that, and I would go, this was directed by Brian De Palma, right? Like it just has his stuff in it. Are you going to get to the? I mean, I don't, but I'm assuming that you're kind of similar reaction. This is pretty flatly made.
Yeah, because like it also like just I'm not really sure. I can't like find the word that I'm looking for, but like artificial almost, but I'm not even sure if that's right. But like
Yeah, there's an emptiness to it. That's what I kept thinking. Is
yeah.
there's it's all surface level. There's no depth to anything.
Yeah.
I feel like this falls into the category of a lot of particularly horror remakes at this time period, right? Where it all is just like we're doing the things, we're doing the iconography, but you're like, yeah, but who cares? Like, there's no passion coming from the filmmakers, even though like nobody's doing a bad job. This movie's not poorly shot. It's clearly a glossy studio movie. Everybody in this has been good in other stuff. Like the biggest thing that shocked me is how good a cast they assembled, but then also how kind of boring they are in it. Like you're like, ooh, Julianne Moore is Margaret White, and you're like, I mean, she's always good, but this is like Julianne Moore at a 6, who's still great, but like it doesn't.
Yeah, her 80% is everyone else's 120.
That's exactly what I was thinking. I was going like, I mean, yeah, she's great because she's always great, but I don't feel that she's like going for it in this in a way that you would think would be why a Julianne Moore would be attracted to this part. Would be like, oh, I'm gonna go fucking nuts on this thing, like Piper Laurie did. She's actually, it's weird because I think the movie makes her crazier, like the stuff they have her do, but the performance is weirdly much more muted.
Yeah, I don't know. I think because I really liked what she was doing in this, but I think maybe some of that is because the only person that she acts, one of the only people she acts with,
Yeah,
is
is Chloe
Chloe
Moretz.
Grace Moretz, who
Yeah.
I wasn't as enthralled with her
No,
performance.
that's a big problem here. That's one of the biggest glaring, like, it's out front. An actress who I've liked in many other things. I don't think she's untalented by any stretch of imagination, but this is a miscasting, right?
Yeah, in a lot of different ways for a lot of different
And
reasons.
that seems to be a big note across a lot of the reactions I read to this, both from major critics and fans alike, is like, wow, you guys, this is just not at all. That was my reaction to seeing the trailers and going like,
Yeah.
no, that's not what we're looking for out of a Carrie. I was looking at the other people they considered for Carrie, all way offline for me as well. Still, where's this list I have here? Well, number one, Stephen King suggested Lindsay Lohan, which, sorry, Uncle Stevie.
But
Well, I think the movie would be more entertaining, probably in the wrong way, but it would definitely. This would have more of a cult following if this was Lindsay Lohan, I bet.
with the right direction, I think. Ooh, I'm sorry. I'm gonna fantasize about Lindsay Lohan's Carrie all day.
There you go. That's who he said. He goes, I think that's who's out there that would fit my vision of the character most. So it was before it went to Chloe Moretz. They offered it to Shailene Woodley, who turned it down. Which is
Shailene Woodley.
She was the Fault in Our Stars, which is interesting because the guy from Fault in Our Stars is in this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Although this is before that. This is actually his very first on-screen role Ansel Elgort.
Hmm.
Then it went to Haley Bennett, Emily Browning, Lily Collins, Bella Heathcote, and Dakota. Of course, it went to Dakota Fanning at some point.
Yeah.
Haley Steinfeld was also considered. But these are all... I mean, I think Haley Steinfeld is a better actress. And might have been... But they're all these... these are all, like, the pretty young girls of the... They're all... Like, one of the reasons Spacek was such a great choice is she really wasn't in the, like, realm of movie star, right? Like, she was sort of an oddball pick. She was the wife of, De Palma's production designer, who was an actress. And I think maybe not having a familiarity with a Carrie actress is maybe a good choice or something like that. Because particularly the casting of Chloe Grace Moretz in this is like, okay, this is a movie star playing Carrie. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, she's... This is the classic, like, I've glammed down for the... Not that this is an awards movie, but it's that kind of thing, right? Where it's like... But I do, every time they show her face, I'm just like, that's a movie star face. You can take all the makeup off of it, you can put the hair, she can hunch, but that face, it's just, that's a leading lady, like, that's just like, that belongs on a movie poster. And that should not be the... And this leads to something Kimberly Pierce says in her commentary that I think is a very interesting choice, is they purposely made the actress playing Chris look worse. They gave her the bad tan, the ratty hair extensions, so that some part of Chris's bullying is that she knows Carrie is prettier than her. Yeah, and that's where I'm going, like, okay, if that was your mindset, then maybe even your cut's going to have some weird shit for me. Yeah.
Yeah, for listeners, when John said that, I'd like...
Oh, yeah.
retched, like, 3 feet away from my microphone, like, really?
Yeah. Very weird choice, because I think the casting of Chris is really weird in this, and the casting of Sue. All three of, like, the main teenage girls in this are all weirdly cast. I mean, having Sue be like this tall, statuesque blonde, and for Chris they cast Portia Doubleday, who is a natural blonde that they darkened her hair, gave her this horrible fake tan. Just weird choices.
Like, I'm trying... Because, right, part of, which we talked about last week, like, part of the point of this remake, which in better hands I think could have been something, but, like, right, the point is updating the time period to reflect modern bullying. And
which that what you've just said right there is, when people go, why, that would be the reason why to do it, that a filmmaker could do it. And this movie hints at that, as we're saying,
Yeah, and in 2013, I was only a year out of high school. And, like, thinking back now the thing is like, I don't remember there being a ton of, like, overt bullying in my high school.
Yeah, I think we mentioned that before. The same here. There wasn't, like... Not in the targeted way that, like, pop culture is. There were just people who were kind of jerks, but they were just kind of generally assholes. They weren't, like, at a person. And maybe there were people who I didn't know who were getting targeted like that, but certainly no one that was in my frame of reference.
And quite frankly, like, most of the bullying that I knew about was, like, within, like, group, was intergroup.
Yeah. Well, I think especially because high school always feels so tiny. Like, when the prom scene in this movie, I'm just like, do, like, 40 kids go to this school? Like,
okay, right. That's part of why this update didn't really work.
Yeah.
Because we're moving it out of a small town. What seems like we're moving it out of a small town into, like, a like, hey, like, John, did your prom happen at the high school? Mine sure as shit didn't.
No, it did not. Mine happened at the zoo.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah.
We had ours at Montgomery Park, and then they asked us not to come back, so we had it at the Trade Center downtown.
Okay, well, that's our prom was it was at the ballroom at the zoo, and that was as far as I mean, I haven't. Believe it or not, I haven't kept up with what my high school has done for prom.
Yeah, me neither.
But for the longest time, that was like always the case at my high school. They always had it at the zoo. So apparently, your high school got a little out of hand at Montgomery Park.
Yeah. Yeah, it wasn't great.
But no, yeah, this has that.
Like, the point is, right? Like, you and I both went to schools in pretty big suburban, like, neighborhood areas. Like, sorry, it was like Westland. I was like, what's that fucking place called? Westland.
Whatever.
But and Beaverton for me.
Yeah.
But so, like, right, I had about over 400 kids per grade.
That's about what
school.
I think we were in that same realm where I grew up.
And that kind of seems about the level that this school is at, if not more.
Right.
So, like, yeah, so that's kind of what I was talking, a lot of what I was talking about earlier with, like, the updating. They updated certain things and not others.
Yeah, because then when they go to the prom, it feels like it's incredibly tiny.
Yeah.
And that was the thing. And that really struck me because that felt so incongruous with the school they'd presented. Then when I was just like, God, there's no one at this prom.
Either nobody went to prom or this gym is way bigger than it seems. Which it doesn't feel like. I don't think it is.
No. The other thing I think, well, I mean, okay, there's a lot to talk about here because there's a lot that gets brought up, but like the big stupid reason that this movie exists and indulges in a lot of is, and this is a thing I hate when people talk about, well, they should remake this genre movie because today's effects are better, and the CGI in this movie
it's really not.
It's really bad.
So cheap.
It looks really cheap. And it like changes the story to me. Turning Carrie into this like Scarlet Witch superhero at the end and having her do all the like superhero poses are like, that Carrie just seems like she's kind of evil.
Yeah.
Which is not what I think of the end of Carrie as being. Like, right? I mean, like, they turn her into like a killer in this movie. In a way, I mean, she certainly kills a lot of people in the book and in the De Palma version. But in both of those, I think of it as sort of this, like, explosion of energy.
And more like, and they try to do this in this one, too. But it in the De Palma film, and, you know, we're sort of backing away kind of from the book even more.
Yeah.
But, like, it seems... But since this movie is drawing a lot from the De Palma film, whether Kimberly Pierce wanted to or not.
One of the big things that's indication of that is the writer of the De Palma movie still gets credit for this movie. He still has a screenwriting credit, and I don't think he actually worked on this. I think they just took so much from that he shares a screenwriting credit, because I have to imagine they had to, or else they're like, he's gonna fucking sue us. I mean, like, he would have every right to, because this is mostly his same adaptation.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
But sorry, I also got sidetracked there. But the oh no, my brain's gonna not let me get to the point I was trying to make.
You were saying as we further get out from the kingdom.
So further. So because in the De Palma film, it seems like Carrie is like almost, to use like modern parlance, like almost dissociating.
Yes.
When she is destroying the prom, like. She is not there, and so when she goes home, she's like, oh my god, what did I do? What happened?
Yeah.
But this Carrie seems to be very deliberate in her actions, but then they still try to do the whole, oh my god, what did I do? What happened?
Yeah.
What have I done?
And that it doesn't land because...
It doesn't land.
Especially the death of Chris and Billy is so a calculated murder in this thing, which really irked me. Well, number one, and I actually really like Alex Russo, who plays Billy, but he's 40 fucking years old.
Yeah.
Sorry. When he shows up, I'm like, so this is your adult boyfriend, Chris? I don't...
Well...
Yeah, I mean, it could be, but it's implied he goes to the school. It'd be one thing if they're like, no, he actually came from the town college or whatever. He's a couple years out from joining SWAT on CBS. So, I mean, and that's what I know him from. I really like Alex Russell on there. And he was he's a couple years out from being in high school in the movie Chronicle, which is the other thing I remembered him from.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's
he
the good one who gets powers in Chronicle as opposed to Dane DeHaan's bad one. Yeah. But again, of course, IMDb loves their trivia, loves shit like that, where it's like, Alex Russell was in another movie about teenagers with powers. You're like,
whoa.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks.
Cool fact, IMDb. But because I think one of the things I really like the Travolta Nancy Allen dynamic because it really turns it into Billy being this just like lunkhead who's just like, whatever, yeah, okay, I hope you fuck up this weird girl, fine, whatever, as long as you blow me or whatever, right? Like, and I mean, and that's really what it plays like. Whereas here they try to have it both ways. His sudden turn into being pure evil at the prom, where he's like, I'll fucking kill you, Chris. And I was
right, this is part of the problem of remaking the De Palma film, but also at least trying to put more things from the novel in it, is that, like, I think we discussed this during the De Palma Carrie film, but like in the novel, Chris is like mean and like awful and mean-spirited, but like Billy is straight up evil.
Oh yeah, like, I mean, they're in like he's horribly abusing her,
horribly abusive to her.
Yeah.
And so they try to have it both ways in this,
right?
Where he's just kind of like, I'm just your boyfriend with like a vintage hot rod.
Yeah.
So like it also doesn't, like, why, I don't know.
And his leather jacket and that like cultivated growth of beard that drives me insane in movies where you're like,
yeah,
okay, you have to be shaving this down to cultivate that it looks like I'm not shaving.
Yeah.
Ugh.
It's just weird. But anyway, but also the like strange in the context of this movie turn to him being like, I'm gonna kill you.
Yeah. But the thing is, like, why? Because they have this moment where before they dump the blood on her, Chris maybe kind of is like, maybe I shouldn't do this. And then he is like, no, you're going to fucking do it or I'm going to kill you. And I thought, like, what does he care? Like, I would think, based on what I've seen, he would just be like, fine, whatever, don't do it. Like, because he has no vendetta against Carrie. He's just going along with his girlfriend. So it's another thing where it's like, if you wanted, much like we were talking about with the raining of rocks, is like, if you're gonna do that, then seed a reason for him to be doing that.
Yeah. Like, again, just make him a dick. Make him straight up evil. Like,
even if he doesn't, or you don't even, it's like you could even go not as far as him being an abusive piece of shit who's gonna kill her, but just like he really thinks this is gonna be funny, and so he's like, no, come on, man, we said we were gonna do, If you just want to be like, but they want to have it all ways, and I feel bad for, like I said, these are all actors who have been in other good stuff, but man, they can't. What is there to grasp onto? And maybe it's in reshoots. I'll give Kimberly Pierce the benefit of the doubt to some extent on maybe some of this got reshot or recut, but I don't know. Like I said, that just that her mindset about the Chris Carrie dynamic is like, I don't know if you and I are on the same page about what the story's about.
It's like, and part of that I think comes from a interpretation of the story that I don't agree with, but also from the updating of it, because like they have to kind of I guess contend with the fact of like, well, Carrie was homeschooled because like, why would her mother even send her to a public school in in an area like this? But it's also still just a throwaway line.
It is. Although it is, I will say
whereas the implication in the De Palma film, as well as like the implicit, like, or explicit, oh my God, Max. What's explicitly happening in the novel is that Carrie has been bullied literally her entire life by all these people because it is such a small area that it is everybody knows everybody, and this is just her life.
Right. And that's you get that in the Sissy Spacek performance in the De Palma movie, right? Like,
Yeah.
even if the movie doesn't say it, you just feel in every scene, because he doesn't have to, as stylized as that movie is, he can be more subtle in just the way Sissy Spacek carries herself. Where in this movie, every scene where she walks down the hall, and literally every single person in the school is going, "Look at that freak," except for it's Chloe Grace Moretz, so somebody would be like, "I don't know, she's also super hot though." Like, she may be wearing a sack, but which she totally is at certain points in the movie when they literally have her wearing a denim sack, which befits what her mother would put her in, but it also feels like we're trying to overcompensate for having a very attractive lead.
Yeah, and yeah, it just reminds me, in my high school, our senior year, we did Macbeth, and our director was always doing something with Shakespeare.
Oh yeah,
so
we had one of those too.
It was like vaguely set in a junkyard, and like everybody was kind of like fighting. It was like fighting to be king of garbage, essentially. But so, and we had 3 Macbeths and 3 Lady Macbeths. We always did that. It was it's fine.
Okay.
But one of the gals who was playing Lady Macbeth was this girl who was like in like leadership, and she was like always did like school spirit stuff, and she was super nice, beautiful girl.
Yeah.
It was impossible for us to like make her look gross.
Yeah.
And like she was living in a junkyard. We couldn't, her hair wouldn't tease.
Yeah.
We would smear like grease paint on her face, and it just looked like she was going to do a photo shoot.
Yeah.
That's what it reminds me of.
That's exactly what this is. I thought that, because once again, it's that thing of anytime they went to a close-up on her, because she's doing a lot to try to like hunch her, because the other thing is Chloe Grace Moretz's build is she's very like long and athletic, and that's why like things like Hit Girl and stuff, where she does a lot of action-y kind of stuff, because she's kind of built like that. And so here she's trying to like make herself scrunched up and small, and it feels like that. But as soon as they go to that face, I'm like, man, they are really trying to underdo that makeup, and that face is glowing. It's like I said, it's just it's made for the screen. So it just, and then of course then when she puts on the prom dress at the end, you're like, oh well, yeah, she always looked like this, and now you can just see her body more, which was it just, I don't know, it's a weird casting choice, and I don't know if it's the director, I don't know if it's on her or the script. It's probably a combination of all three of those things. She just doesn't seem to have a take on this character, really.
No.
She defaults. It's interesting because she said, "Oh, I'd never seen Carrie. I purposely didn't watch it." It's like, yeah, but yet you seem to somehow, and I think maybe it is just like cultural zeitgeist, be defaulting to an impression of Sissy Spacek a lot when she's doing all the like, "Mama." But it almost has that like high school play thing where it's like, "Oh, Mama, it's so bad out there."
Yeah, because I had wondered that too. I was wondering if like she was unconsciously kind of slipping into an accent for when she's interacting with her mom.
Yeah.
But only in certain points. No,
it does feel that way. I think it's interesting where it's like, man, I believe her that she maybe hadn't seen the original Carrie movie, but man, it's still, you just can't escape it. It's incredible. And it's just, it's ill-fitting. Yeah, she doesn't fit the part well. And so it's a bummer. She's also, as the trivia points out, the only actual teenager to play Carrie. She was 15 in this movie.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I was shocked by that but then I realized like, oh yeah, well she's been acting. She was like 8. She's always seemed very mature. She was one of those kid actors who seemed like, God damn, how are you so talented? I mean, Dakota Fanner's kids. That was the same thing with her, right? It was like, man, you really like know what you really know your shit at like 6. So I think that's why I'm always surprised that she's younger than I think she is. All right, let's talk about this also feels like you kids very hunky. Ansel Elgort. That scene when he takes off his lacrosse helmet, and he doesn't have long enough hair to do this, but he basically does like a slow motion, like, hey. And I just went like, okay, all right, movie. And this is once again, this is pre Fault in Our Stars, which made him.
This was around the time, like
it's the next
the allegations
year.
came out later.
Oh yeah,
but
yeah.
like for like this time
Yeah.
of his like my god, like sexual assault allegations. So it's I don't know. I was kind of like, oh yeah, I forgot he's in this.
Yeah, it's yeah. I mean, it is what it is, unfortunately. But this was definitely the beginning. I mean, this is his first movie, and he is really portrayed as like, meet your new heartthrob, girls.
Yeah.
And every shot of him is so, and Tommy is a character that works for. And I don't think he's bad in this.
Like, you know, I will say that like he is doing a good job in this role. Like,
it's actually one of the
it's one of the only very castings. Much like the well-meaning but still kind of dumb jock. I mean,
it's one of the only castings
the Tim
that
Tebow
I was like,
line really made me go like, okay,
yeah,
all right.
But that's the thing is, I was gonna say, it's one of the only castings where I was just like, oh yeah, that works. Like most of the other castings are like, what, or this person doesn't quite fit, or that's a weird choice, or I want to switch the Chris and Sue in this movie. Like they feel like they would fit much better that way. But him, I'm like, yeah, okay, that makes sense. And once again, very in line with the next several years of his career, because immediately the next year is Fault in Our Stars, and oh boy, that whole thing was just like, and the Divergent movies, which I never saw, but I think he's the guy in those, and you know, whatever. And then eventually he's Baby Driver. Now he's battling the Yakuza in Tokyo on Tokyo Vice on Max. So but yeah, he actually does play the role well. Feels naturalistic in a way a lot of the other people don't. I don't think his scenes with Carrie work, only because I think Carrie is just such a weird, like the character is so messed up by, once again, I'm not going to put it all on Moretz, who, because a couple years before this is very interesting. A couple years before this, she's in Let Me In, the Matt Reeves remake of Let the Right One In.
Yeah.
And
I also wasn't. I didn't see that one for a very similar reason to this one. I was like,
that one I liked.
Why?
Yes, that one I will say I did like that, mostly because I'm a big fan of Matt Reeves directing, and I think it's really well done. But what's interesting is that's where she's this very ethereal, otherworldly, you know, alluring creature to this boy. So it's a total opposite thing, but I think it's just interesting that she's in these back-to-back, like, I don't know, was she making a run at like Scream Queen kind of? I mean, she was always kind of like, Chloe Moretz has always kind of had this career to me of like eschewing the sort of standard like teen actress roles, right? She did Hit Girl.
Yeah.
She did like R-rated stuff that was more genre-y, I think. Good Lord, her career goes back to 2004. Like, she was like a little kid. It's amazing she's not a complete mess. I just assume, because how could it not? I always, because I just put myself in that. I feel like if I had been a famous actor at like 5, I would be so fucked up now. Like, how could you not be?
Yeah.
But and then she does that's okay, that's interesting. She does Let Me In, and then the movie she does before this is Dark Shadows.
Oh yeah.
Where she's the werewolf girl in Dark Shadows, which I actually, once again, regardless of thoughts on that movie, she's actually pretty good in that. But yeah, it's just interesting that this is kind of, I don't know if that's her or if they're trying to mold her into this. But I guess at the time, it's sort of thing where it almost feels like at the time it was just like, well, that's who would play Carrie from a studio standpoint, I should say.
Yeah, I don't know. It still seems like an odd choice.
I think it's
because I guess aside from Let Me In, which again I didn't see, so maybe I could be wrong, but like it seems like her trajectory at this point was just like snarky teen in like snarky genre teen, I guess.
Yes, very much. That's very much the case in Dark Shadows. Like she is
Yeah.
the like,
Okay.
I'm a moody teenage girl who's also a werewolf, and it's like, get out of my room, Dad.
Mm-hmm.
Very much her vibe in that movie.
Yeah.
She also went full like method on this. They talked about she would stay in character between takes, and Kimberly Pierce sent her to homeless shelters to meet with people who had genuinely tough lives, according to Kimberly Pierce's commentary. And you're like, okay, interesting. I mean, I always kind of roll my eyes at the method stuff anyway. But, you know, research is whatever, but it's just like, what do you, I don't know what you're getting out of that.
Yeah, and it also seems like, I don't know, not, I mean, maybe not exploitative, but like not in the like traditional sense, but
Well, yeah, but it has that like, tell me about how horrible your life is. Okay, I'm going to go back to my mansion now.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Where it is just like, thanks for, yeah. It's yeah, maybe not exploitative is the right word, but there's a little bit of like a voyeurism to it, where it's like, your life is really terrible. Let me observe that. Oh, look at your
kind
pain.
of giving me Benedict Cumberbatch observing developmentally disabled folks to play Frankenstein.
Yeah,
Sort of.
yeah. Where it's like, I understand what the kernel of this is, but it definitely dehumanizes the person you're observing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, you are my research
Maybe don't
material.
pat yourself on the back for it.
Yeah, it's one thing because it's the same way that Andy Serkis talks about studying apes at the zoo, right? Which is that's one thing, but it's like they talk about that like it's a human.
Yeah.
And that's where it's like, no, that's a human being who's. And also, it's just like, what are you getting out of Carrie? Is like, well, we specifically looked for anyone who might have any latent telekinetic powers or was tortured by their insanely religious, almost cartoonish level mother or whatever. You know, it's just like, I don't know what, at homeless shelters, you're just like, well, a lot of people are probably dealing with mental illness or drug abuse or, you know, losing a job or something. I don't know what you're getting for Carrie out of that.
Yeah.
Anyway. Yeah, so that's yeah. Let's see here. Okay, this actually takes us right to the beginning of the movie. According to Chloe Grace Moretz, the film was delayed from March 15, 2013 to October 18th, 2013. I would think just because it's a horror movie, it should come out in October. Has stated the reason was to add scarier scenes such as Margaret giving birth to Carrie. Which is how the movie starts.
That was definitely scary and not just excessive.
Yeah. It's long, too. Because that's right how the movie starts. And immediately, that put a horrible bad taste in my mouth, right? From the start, we're just like, what? What am I looking at here? And I couldn't remember.
About voyeuristic.
Absolutely. And it, you know, it's probably not actually that long, but it felt very long because you're watching Julianne Moore scream in pain and there's blood all around, and then this baby her like going through her own skirt until she finds the baby that's there, and then grabs the most comically large pair of horror movie scissors to almost stab the baby. It's once again, it's that thing about like you don't need to literalize like it's so interesting because De Palma's a guy who was so criticized for a lot of his career about being way too explicit. And then you watch this and you go like, God, he really held back on a lot of shit, didn't he? Because they're literalizing what is implied in that movie where it's like, I should have killed you. You are born of sin. And here they're like, let's show her almost stab the baby. I think that's really going to drive it home.
Yeah. And then she still talks about it later.
Yeah. Well, that was a big thing. Kimberly Pierce also says in her commentary, she really wanted her movie to be more about the Carrie and Margaret relationship. That was really her way in. And you can feel that. And also I had a feeling where it's like, we have Julianne Moore. Just make sure she's in this movie more than Piper Laurie was.
Yeah.
And like we said, Julianne, I mean, I'll watch her. I mean, her on autopilot is still one of the most captivating screen presences. And yeah, she's great. But that was a big thing. And the other thing is, oh God, of course, this is such a horror reboot promotional like tour statement. As Chloe Grace Moretz describes the film as a darker, more twisted version of the story. And I did get that. There were several times watching the movie where it's like they just up the gore on stuff a little bit. Like when Margaret is putting her hand through the thing and slicing up, and I'm just going like, "Oh, it's so twisted! Oh, it's twisted!"
You know, there's more explicit like shots, like I guess the prom deaths are just very in your face.
Yeah, absolutely. The kids getting sliced in half when the bleachers start closing.
The twins getting trampled. The weird twins getting trampled.
Let's talk about the twins. What the fuck is up with the twins in this thing?
Oh, I don't know, dog. They're there. They're definitely in it.
They are for sure in it. My favorite moment with the twins is during that getting ready for prom montage when instead of looking in a mirror, they look at each other.
Look at each other?
What even is that?
Okay, I'm not a twin, but like, no. If you're a twin and you listen to this, do you do shit like the way that like pop culture twins are always so weird, like weirder than actual twins in real life are that I've encountered.
Yeah,
like they're just people who look exactly like someone else.
And the other thing is from my very limited experience with twins. And just seeing people who are twins discuss it is like, I think it's a lot of people's experience. Once again, I can't speak. Maybe there are twins like this that are presented in this movie, but a lot of twins kind of want to separate themselves, especially by the time you're like in high school, because it is the pop culture thing of let's look at these identical human beings. Here though, they're more than just identical. They're like symbiotic in this, right? Like there's this whole it's disturb like. Why is everybody weirded out by Carrie? I'm focused on what these twins are up to because this is weird as hell. By the way, these twin actresses also made a horror movie in 2018 called Twinsanity.
Whoa! Gotta check that out.
Yeah, I'm sure that's going to be great. Carissa and Katie Strain are their names.
Oh man, I was really hoping that you were gonna say Strange. I was like, okay, actually no, I'm deeply on board.
But yeah, I'm just like, oh god, when the also known for section on IMDb is like, what is this Twinsanity? Oh god, yeah, Carissa and Katie Strain. Oh boy, they are Canadian because I think this movie was shot in Canada. Like everything is.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, because it really is. It's another one where it's like, so we're definitely still not in Maine, right? Like we're just in any town.
Any town, USA.
Absolutely is that. Boy, I think these two twins might have that because their whole careers appear to be in the same movies, always playing twins. Which I can just imagine is just like, you guys need twins in this movie?
We got some.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, if the checks are clearing,
good for them. Yeah. No, it's nothing to do with them. They're getting by just fine. Similar to some of the issues I had with the Brian Fuller adaptation that we talked about last week. Similar here, this movie does not do as good a job of building the social group. And once we talk about De Palma doesn't like indulge in any of that, but he just gives enough to each character. Whereas here, aside from the twins who stand out because they're twins and constantly doing twin things, I get no sense of like the other girls around Chris at all. Yeah.
Who's Tina? I don't know. Who's Norma? I don't know. She's not wearing a hat the whole time.
There is no.
Once again,
there is no Norma in this movie. Actually, there's
damn shame.
Her friends are Tina, Heather, and then Nikki and Lizzie, the twins.
The twins, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I have no sense.
Heather? Okay, sure.
Yeah, no idea who that is. The red-haired girl, who sadly died. Now I see. Oh, that's too bad.
Oh. Rip.
I mean, yeah, I wasn't going to say anything bad about her because I don't even know who she is. Because once again, no presence in this movie. None of these people. Yeah. This is maybe the time to bring up who is the credited modern screenwriter on this, which is a guy named Roberto Aguirre Sacasa, who comes from, I don't think it was on mic, but last week after we finished recording, we were talking about Glee, and this guy was one of the main writers on Glee. And then goes on to create Riverdale and the subsequent whole Riverdale universe, which
I see.
That it's 100%. When I read that, I went, "Oh, this movie makes a lot more sense." Like, there's a lot of that. Riverdale in particular. I'm like, oh god.
Oh, the Riverdale.
Oh, Riverdale. A show I just can't. I can't. I was like offended at the even concept. Like, no, do not turn Archie into Twin Peaks. Don't do it. Oh, it was. Did you watch some Riverdale?
Wow. Well, John, you'll never know the epic highs and lows of high school football, so I guess that's your loss.
That's the problem. That's the problem, yeah. But Riverdale and Chilling Adventures of Sabrina and Katie Keene. Mm-hmm. He's the Riverdale guy. He also wrote the Town That Dreaded Sundown remake from 2014.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so see that's so it's interesting how well, I guess that, from a production standpoint, I mean, Riverdale, listen, say what you will about Riverdale and the Chilling Tales of Sabrina.
Yeah.
Those shows are very stylistic. They are
absolutely
very, like, they have an identity.
No question. And that it has enough of identity that they present themselves well enough for me to go, I don't want to watch.
Yeah, which, hey, you know what?
Yeah.
Not a lot.
Yeah.
It's good for a show to do that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it is like, if you like that, that's great. No interest whatsoever from this guy. But yeah, no, you're saying that they have, they definitely do have their own style. There's no question about that.
Yeah, but also it's the Town That Dreaded Sundown remake, which I have seen.
Oh, I never saw. I like the original.
Also, very much not as high a budget, but like very much in this movie's vein of like just being kind of a 2013, 2014 movie.
Yeah.
Like not really a lot of an identity outside of that.
As you bring that up, the fact that was the next year is another thing where it's like, yeah, it was like The Hills Have Eyes was around this time too. Like Last House on the Left, they were remaking everything at this time. Like, I think that's the other thing about this is like, I think that's a little bit why I avoided this movie, but I wasn't like, what? They would deign to remake Carrie? Because they were already in the process of remaking every famous horror movie.
Yeah, this just sort of seemed like cashing in on that trend.
Yeah, so I just sort of rolled this in, and now having seen it, yeah, it's the same as My Bloody Valentine 3D. You know, like when I just was looking through like what all of these at this time, and yeah, they are all just this. And now it's so interesting. The fucking Amityville Horror with Ryan Reynolds, another guy who I love. But what are you doing? What are you doing? Yeah. Why did he do that?
At least that one is at least laughably bad.
It is. Because Ryan Reynolds is hilarious. No.
Yeah, he's hilarious.
Yeah.
He's yelling at those kids to shut up.
Yeah.
Gets me every time.
That was that weird period of time when he was like, I don't just want to be a funny guy. And people are like, maybe that's what you're good at, though. Don't try to do maybe don't do the serious
If you want to be serious, maybe buy a vodka company and a cell phone company.
There you go. Yeah. That's where you can be serious in your life. When it comes to the movies, be the funny guy. Yeah. But no, and it's so interesting that thinking about that trend, because now it's all about the Lego sequels, right? It's all about your Halloween, your Scream, even the I didn't see the Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie where they brought back the woman from the very first movie. Now, I will someday, because we'll eventually do Campbell and Jones Meet the Slashers, and someday we'll get there. But yeah,
my condolences.
But that is that's the thing now is like, and actually there was in the trivia I did see there was an offer to Sissy Spacek to play Margaret White in this, which I can't imagine her saying no faster to that.
Yeah.
In what world would she want to do that?
Wow.
And that's such a like, huh? That'd be pretty fun, right? Eesh. No. Somebody I do want to talk about in this, another person I love is Judy Greer, but as Miss Desjardins in this. So they do talk about they left in a lot of her improvs and also rewrote scenes to give her more comedy to do. which, number one, I don't know how much was actually funny, and number two, what is that impulse?
Yeah.
But they're just like, oh, it's Judy Greer. We better make sure there's some laughs in this. Now, if you're a listener over on Meet the Monsters, I don't know if you'll have heard it by the time this is coming out, but you were on for the Cursed episode, where I think Judy Greer is doing a lot and is really improving. That is really... Oh! Because that movie is fun as hell. Say what you will about the quality of it, but that movie is bonkersville.
And Brendan does.
Oh, he does. And I see his point. I see the weaknesses. Yeah. But goddamn, if that movie is not a good time. That is a fun 90 minutes, folks.
Mm-hmm.
And also...
Yeah, and Judy Greer is doing so much. It's just...
Oh, because she's amazing. She's somebody who does improve almost every movie. But it's interesting that I read that because I went like, oh man, I really thought she was kind of boring in this, because I'm like, why would you hire Judy Greer for this pretty character? Other than she's just a sympathetic presence. We like her. She's a very likable figure on screen. But I just thought, and then when she gets Darth Vader choked at the end.
Oh my God, I literally was like, careful not to choke on your ambitions, Miss Desjardins.
You can't not. It's insane. It's the exact same effect. The way she gets pulled up by the, because I thought like, oh my God, why is Carrie strangling her to death? And it's like, oh no, wait, she's saving her. Well, then why was she choking her? Like,
yeah, like, oh wow, this doesn't make sense. Like, I mean, it's the same impulse as the 2002. Like, this is really such okay, let me just like say a sentence.
Yeah,
it's the same impulse as the 2002 Carrie of, we didn't want it seemed unfair to have Carrie die at the end. It's like, oh, it's not fair for Miss Desjardins to die because she was nice to Carrie. And it's like, but like that really just rips the teeth out of the tragedy of it. We talked about this last week. Well, it's tragic.
It's and that's the problem I said with making her have more thought and intentionality in the prom massacre. Makes Carrie makes her less of a victim, but also makes the whole thing less of a tragedy. And that's what I liked about it.
It makes her more like complicit in what she's doing too, like we talked about earlier.
And so it's like, then by the end I'm like, well, okay, somebody does need to, maybe I'm kind of with Margaret White, maybe you should stab her because somebody's got to stop the madness. But that's the same, but because that's the thing that I like in the De Palma version by having Miss Desjardins die, because she doesn't die in the book, I believe. Does she?
Does she?
I can't remember.
I thought she died in the book too.
But I can't remember. Maybe she.
Oh,
I think she does live in the book.
Speaking of. Does Miss Desjardins die in?
But what I'm saying about whether it happens in the book or not, but what I like about in the De Palma movie is it's just collateral damage. She's not targeting anybody anymore, good or bad. The whole place is just going to burn down. Yeah. And so by having this be like, no, you live, but also I'm gonna get a forced choke in though while we're at it too. That's what's just so weird about that sequence. And then we'll get to the Sue Snell nonsense at the end, which is totally.
No, she does super live in the movie.
In the
in the book.
In the book, yeah. Okay, that's what I thought. That was it. It's been a long, like the makers of these films. It's been so long since I've read the book that the overwhelming thing in my brain is the De Palma movie.
Is the De Palma film.
It's because
also, I would like to address an insane thing I said last week, where I said that in the book she doesn't actually get pig's blood dropped on her.
Oh.
I cannot tell you why I thought that at all.
I rolled with that.
That's not what happens.
I rolled with that because once again I'm going like, oh, maybe that's another thing where I just inserted that from the De Palma. Okay.
And I like have such a distinct memory of reading that in a like somewhere on a thing that was like on a web page that like was related to the events that happened in the book.
Yeah.
And I don't know, the kids love talking about shifting into universes. That's like the next Mandela effect like thing that people love to do. So I'm just gonna say that I accidentally shifted into a universe where Brian De Palma invented the pig's blood thing. So
I have a fun note about the killing of the pig scene in this movie. Alex Russo, who plays Billy, improvised the thing of kissing the hammer before he smashes the pig in this. And
Okay.
but the interesting fact about it,
like
yeah, no, the interesting fact
it
about
wasn't
that
that
is
interesting of a character choice.
that
No.
no, that he improvised it, but did not take into effect that had been sitting in the pigsty and got seriously sick from the pig excrement that was on it. Careful with those improvs actors is my point.
Yeah. Careful with those character choices.
Yeah. Although, once again, I can't blame him because he's looking to bring anything to this horribly underwritten character. So anything to give this guy any semblance of. I also like the piece of trivia that they said the filmmakers communicated with Stephen King, but he was not actively involved in this movie. Does that mean they just called him and said, "Hey, we're making another Carrie"? He's like, "No interest." Click. We communicated with him.
We communicated with him. We called him and got his publicist on the phone, and the publicist we could hear going, Mr. King, they're making a new Carrie movie. Do you want to be involved?
I'm not
No,
here.
I don't.
I'm not here. Tell him I'm busy. I'm in a meeting. Yeah. All right, let's talk about Sue Snell in this movie, who I, once again, did not like this performance. Kind of an absolutely anonymous. She's not, once again, not like terrible, just nothing.
No, yeah. Not really anything unique about her.
Gabriella Wilde is the actress who plays
performance.
Plays her, who has continued to have a career, so good for her. She's on the TV show Poldark on the BBC.
Never heard of it.
It's a period romance.
Is she an English actor?
Yes. Yeah, she's from Basingstoke, Hampshire, which is about as British a name of a place as I could imagine.
Yeah.
A lot of that because the Billy is Australian. There's a lot of non-Americans in this, as is, I guess, the case these days in a lot of stuff.
It's true.
But and she was in the second Wonder Woman movie, although I can't. Whatever.
Didn't see it.
I did, of course, but I just don't remember this was one being in specifically.
Yeah, my condolences. I don't know why you do this to yourself.
I thought it was all right. I don't know. Once again, weird casting, this statuesque blonde to Sue Snell. I mean, I'm not saying you couldn't do that, but it just doesn't read right. Like, they just don't visually read right, the characters in this movie.
No, and
once again, as this happened to us once more, there was only one black student. I want to get to the principal. Yeah, there's only
one black student that even did remotely one thing on screen. There's some background students
I say this only because I just looked at the IMDb now and I went, oh right, this guy's in the movie. Demetrius Joyette, who plays George in the movie.
Yeah.
The unforgettable character of George. Poor guy. Another Canadian
Tommy's
actor.
Friend.
Yeah, another Canadian actor who seems like his biggest thing was on Degrassi: The Next Generation, which is the most Canadian thing you can be in.
That's true.
Yeah. But I do want to bring up my favorite performance in the movie is Barry Shabaka Henley as the principal, because he is the most grounded performance. And I love Barry Shabaka Henley because he's a regular Michael Mann movies, and I love Michael Mann films. So I just imagine he's like, hold on, I'm sorry, but I have to go to Miami and shoot Miami Vice with Michael Mann right now. So just if you, but it's the most I enjoyed this movie is the scene when they bring Carrie to his office, and he is the most realistic middle-aged man going, well, then when you had your, the incident, with the, we're going to send you home. Like, he was very funny. Like, I was like, wow, it's so random. I'm legit when I say, he's my favorite performance, because he's the only person who's like, that's a real guy. That's a real person in this insane movie. And so I did enjoy that. Yeah. And he's very funny and I guess maybe those are some of the comedy moments that Judy Greer got to play were in scenes with him. then they talk about that. I mean, in as much as any comedy beat in this movie.
Yeah.
Because they also talk about that. They're like, Kimberly Pierce said she wanted to keep a strong sense of humor, like De Palma's movie. I'm like, then she failed.
Yeah. Because, like, yeah. I mean, because De Palma's film is very campy. Like, we can all, admit that. And this is not.
No. And it, once again, it's another thing where it makes you appreciate, like, De Palma was really smart to implement those campy elements that in a weird way made you buy into it more. It's kind of what I see when you see this alternative where it's, this is so straight-faced, so real world, so serious, so twisted. Like,
so twisted.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a scene where she breaks a mirror and then lifts mirror. That's the other thing in this. It's this very superhero-y thing where you really see her, like, perfecting her telekinesis throughout the movie. Which, once again, makes the ending weirder.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a little bit of what... Well, see, so, and this is, like, part of the De Palma... We've gone from Carrieification of De Palmification.
Yeah. It's true.
The De Palmification of Carrie is, like, the research aspect, like, the research scenes, right?
Yeah.
Like, in the novel, because I kind of like didn't have time to reread it, but kind of like re-upped, like, okay, so like what exactly is happening in the novel? So like,
yeah,
a lot of her, like, feeling out her telekinesis is like her just like trying to understand what it means for her. Like, there really isn't a research scene.
Right.
So, like, but again, having it both ways means that it just looks worse for her.
I also love...
Also...
Oh, good.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I also like the having this exist in 2013 and having part of her research be like looking at videos on YouTube is like having a very obvious like magician tricks being what she's looking at.
That guy opening the book with his hand. Yeah.
And it's like, oh yeah, the fishing wire trick.
Yeah.
This is
As somebody who I'll cop to this, watches a lot of illusionist videos on YouTube and how-to stuff, because fucking nerd. But no, that's it exactly. Like, that guy probably then explained how that was done, but she just was like, oh wow. I also love the scene.
I could do that.
Where, because she's still, though, once again, and that thing is like, she's looking at YouTube videos and Google searches, but still primarily books she's getting from the library.
Like, oh man, there are more books in that high school library than I think there were in the entirety of my high school.
Absolutely. I, for a while, once again, back to the nerd thing, for credit, I worked as an IT person at the high school library. Which was actually cool because it just got me out of class. But like, and most 9 times out of 10, the computer was not plugged in. I swear to God, almost every teacher was like, "Well, it isn't plugged in." No, that no one ever came to get a book from that library. What I'm saying is, I spent a lot of time in the library, and I didn't see a single person check out a book, and that was 2006 or 7. Like, so it was, the internet was prevalent, but still not like. I graduated high school just as YouTube was becoming the thing. So I think that, but still, yeah, exactly. But I love Tommy coming over and going like, "Hey, what you reading? Telekinesis. That's crazy.
We hypnotized my friend's dog."
Okay, this is something I do really like in Ansel Elgort's performance.
Funny.
Is even though he's kind of what you're talking about, even though he's nice, he still is like, "Ha, my boy's dog, yeah!" Like, he's still got the jock attitude of like, "Ha," or like when they go to the prom, he's like, "My man, yeah!"
Yeah.
You're like, oh yeah, he's still like a bro-y athlete. Though I like that because it's 2013, he's a lacrosse player. That actually,
yes,
that's one of those modern touches. I was like, nice, yeah, that would be the case. He's not the football guy, he's lacrosse. Also, it makes sense because they wouldn't be playing football around prom.
I thought he was a track.
Was he a track guy in the movie? Yeah.
Well, in the De Palma film, he was a track athlete.
Okay.
I don't remember again.
But the lacrosse thing is very like, that was we definitely grew up in the rise of lacrosse era as a major sport.
We're definitely taking some hits from MTV's Teen Wolf.
Yes. So which also, yeah, some of the when did that come on? That was after this, but
it was before.
Okay,
because it started
that's in the
2010.
Okay, because it's in the same vein. I feel like that's in the same of like the sort of re-rise of the teen horror thing, and then that eventually I think kind of culminates in those Riverdale kind of shows. But so yeah, I know. So I like all that. I actually, but once again, she's reading books, and then I do want to just talk. I mentioned it earlier. The one bit where she has pyrokinesis, when she locks her mom in the closet. What is that about?
I don't know.
Because she never uses it again at any other point in the movie.
No, and there didn't seem to be a whole lot of a point of locking Margaret in the prayer closet.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure what the motivation was. Like,
it felt like Kimberly Pierce wanting to go like, this is how we're going to visualize their reversal of positions, right? I don't think. Okay. I think that's my guess as to what they're trying to do is like they make a point of showing Margaret lock her in the prayer closet earlier in the movie. And then that reversal, I think that's what that meant to be. It's like we need to find a visual reference for there's been a shift in the power dynamic. That doesn't it doesn't land, but I think that's what her thinking was.
I was wondering if it was a way to keep her from following Carrie to the prom.
That also,
because one of the updates they did was because this is a much larger area.
Yeah,
she has a car, and she has to go get Carrie from school.
There's the whole thing with her seamstress job too. Which I don't remember. I'm trying to remember. Does Margaret have a job in any of the other in the book, or certainly not in the De Palma movie? I don't remember they're ever talking about her job.
Yeah.
Here it also like works as and maybe it is from the book, because in this movie it definitely works for like, why would Carrie be able to, I mean, I just accepted she could put the dress together, but like here they're going like, oh, for mom's a seamstress, she has access to all this
that's from the book. She works at a laundromat. Yeah.
Okay, so that is a thing they included then in this that De Palma didn't make. Which I will say makes sense, because De Palma's depiction of Margaret White could not be in society at all.
Yeah.
And this woman just barely. Like, there's the scene where I think, is it Chris's mom that comes to get the alteration, and she's talking.
Sue's.
Oh, it's Sue's mom.
It's
okay.
Sue's mom.
Because you get it's kind of the scene that's in the De Palma movie where Sue's mom comes to her house, but instead she comes to her work there, and you have Margaret slicing her leg under the counter.
Yeah.
I like
another touch from the novel.
And I like that, because that's a rare, subtle moment that is like, here is this completely unhinged woman just barely functioning in society. That was nice. That was a nice piece of filmmaking in there that I was like, good. Yeah, more of this, actually. It feels like, I guess that's the thing. It's like the De Palma version goes very campy. This version goes very serious, except where it doesn't. It feels like it needed to pick a lane. It either needed to get crazier or it needed to be more grounded.
Yeah.
It wants to have it all ways. And maybe that was the case.
So
maybe that recut or reshoot or whatever. Once again, very easy for the director to go like, no, there was a version that crushed.
Yeah.
Although if it's 2 hours and 20 minutes, then I don't want to see it.
Yeah.
I don't have that.
I doubt it.
Yeah, I don't have that kind of time. I'm sorry, Kimberly Pierce. I think this is the last feature film she directed. She's still alive, but I mean, I think that she has directed, I should say. She moves entirely into TV from here, which is fine, but it is like, so that's definitely an indication that while this movie is successful, clearly it wasn't like this got her more movies then. So, and she was coming off of her, we didn't to just touch on Kimberly Pierce. She burst on the scene with Boys Don't Cry in 1999, which was a big indie. And then she kind of doesn't do anything again until a movie I completely forgot. It was called Stop Loss with Channing Tatum. It was one of those kind of early movies dealing with the Iraq War and soldiers coming home. Very 2008 cast of Channing Tatum, Ryan Phillippe, and Joseph Gordon-Levitt as soldiers dealing with trauma. I think it was met with a distinct like, it was all right. So yeah, I don't think she's ever fully delivered on, and who knows? I'm not ignoring the potential sexism of Hollywood. My God, I mean the obvious sex. I don't know in her career specifically, but it feels like she really got a lot of praise from Boys Don't Cry, and then kind of hasn't done a whole lot since then. And this, like I said, it's not poorly directed, but I can't imagine. It makes sense to me that people weren't dying to have her direct something again, because you don't look at this and go like, wow, this is really well done.
Yeah.
It's competently made.
Yeah, but there's nothing really that special about it.
Let's talk about we did touch on the prom scene, and a bunch of people get really fucked up at it.
Really fucked up.
Really fucked up. You guys, this is a twisted movie, all right? This is twisted.
It's so twisted.
It's so twisted. But yes, as in the novel and in the movie, the Palma movie, Chris and Billy do escape for a later confrontation in the car. But oh boy, this is another thing where I'm like, man, this is actually where De Palma showed a lot of restraint. He just had her flip that car and it explode. This does do more of, but still not to the level of destruction that's in the novel of the town. But you do have that scene where she's walking down the street and like things are exploding and it's just balls of fire in the sky. But yeah, she has to murder the bejesus out of Billy and Chris.
She murders the fuck out of those two.
To borrow a shout out to my buddy Dan Scotty, who gave me that murdered the bejesus out of someone on the back on the old days of the podcast. But yes, it's true. She really, really fucking kills these two, and seems to enjoy it. Once again, this Carrie's pretty sick. Like,
that's the other thing is like the relishing of the vengeance is just what really doesn't work in her favor as a sympathetic character.
That's what, when you talk about, that's what the dissociative nature of Sissy Spacek's performance, the way her eyes just go wide and there's blank on her face from that is great. And actually, this movie made me appreciate a movie that, while I still think is incredibly flawed, Rage Carrie 2 still works better than this. The ending definitely does, at the very least, in terms of just comparing these two. Because it is a similar, like, well, you set off a nuclear bomb. Because that's really what I view it as, right? Is you just they kept poking at this girl and poking at her until she just went off. Whereas here, it's like, oh no, what we didn't know is we've been fucking with a serial killer the whole time. Because she not only, the thing where Chris starts going, run her down for me. It's almost just like, kill her for me, baby.
Yeah, right. Like that's the other bit of like
now they've completely flipped.
Right. Yeah. Like Chris is not necessarily sympathetic, but like, there's just like a stacking of like, here's these people, here are the things that like are just fucking with their lives completely. And for Chris, that is Billy. But yeah, it turns her from that kind of thing into just like kill this bitch, let's do it.
It was so crazy to me when because he's running the car at her and she's just standing in the road, and it is basically like, come on, if you love me, you're gonna fucking murder this girl, right? And he's such a I actually think if there had been more back and forth and this was the interesting way to write this is like some kind of mutually abusive relationship would have been another read on this. If you just made it that they're just the two fucking worst human beings on the planet, but it's just not well. But we get a full on. I mean, all the CGI, because I think I did mention on one of the other ones before that I had seen the clip of her levitating at prom, and that's where I'm just going like, oh my god, she's flying. But all the stuff with her hand motions and everything, I'm just like, all right, so this is like an X-Men movie now. Like at a certain point, it does get very Jean Grey, or particularly when she's in red and stuff, very Scarlet Witch, and the moves she's doing are very, because it's just like Oh, right. That's another thing that's happened in here is like we're in the middle of the rise of Marvel. So like we now have a cultural understanding of using telekinetic powers as having like poses and stuff, which is not good for this, as we're saying. So yeah, so she not only smashes the car with some kind of force blast, but we have to make a point of seeing Billy's face in slow motion shatter against the steering wheel.
Because he wasn't wearing a seatbelt.
That's it. That's it.
That's the real theme of this movie.
Buckle up for safety,
if you
kids.
Really think about it.
Show the world you care by the belt you wear. As the old 19 whatever. I love that there was a time when it was like, guys, we really need, like, seatbelts didn't exist, and now they're there, but no one's using them. We really need to tell people, no, you really have to fucking use them. Like,
you really need to wear your seatbelt.
Yeah. So anyway, he's dead. But once again, it's the movie's indulging in that too. It's like, watch this guy's head crack apart, and it's like, well, yeah, I didn't like him, but Jesus Christ.
We're really reveling in this,
but then that's not nearly enough though for Chris. No,
because she, even when the car is in the air, she is like trying to gun it so she can run Carrie over. Like, it's just buck wild.
Yeah. And then she goes, her face crashing through, and once again the like CGI detail, the splintering of the glass all around.
Her face is like like in a perfect face hole in the windshield.
And this comes from the comment. This was absolutely a Kimberly Pierce, and this is where once again I'm like, maybe your instincts weren't, because she talked about, she goes, well, this is I look, I'm sure Kimberly Pierce is a perfectly nice person who has a lot of smart impulses, but this made me go, on the commentary, she says, I didn't listen to the commentary, by the way, I just was reading select quotes from it, because I did not buy this, I just watch on Max like any other I do not need this in my home, but she said, she was like, I wanted the deaths to all fit the characters, and she was such a vain character that to destroy her face like that would be, and you're just like, oh god, that is such lame, like, film school 101 bullshit.
Yeah.
And stupid. And it looks bad. The effect looks bad.
So bad.
I felt bad for the actress having to be in that makeup, and then they do the fucking cool guy action hero Carrie walking away as the gas station yeah. Oh my god. I'm like, this is like Denzel in The Equalizer walking away. Yeah. Are you kidding me? Yeah. Real bad.
Also, now that you've said that though, I'm trying to like okay, so like, was the twins getting trampled, was like stripping them of their identity?
I guess so. I will say, it seems like this is the only one that really, like, her saying that is like, okay, other than Chris, please explain the other ones to me, because like,
like, camera boy got hit with a table and died because
I think he
would sit at tables in the library. The girl who got hit with the electrical cords. We didn't see this, but she did horseback riding and horses.
in that 40 minutes of footage they cut, there was a whole horseback riding thing. Actually, that, as we talk about that, when we go back to the prom, one of the big changes here is Carrie reacts to Tommy's death, which we have not seen in the other versions. I don't know.
Which also sort of cheapens her breaking point.
Because it is like, you dump blood on me, but also you killed the cute boy.
You can dump blood on me all you want. If you kill Ansel Elgort, you're all dead.
Really what it felt like, because they take a point and like the sound goes out and she goes over and is like, no. I couldn't believe, especially later, the restraint of not showing his head like crack open when they hit because this movie's so twisted. I was actually surprised that they showed the restraint of that, because I was waiting for that. But I guess we're not. His is a sad death, unlike Billy and Chris, that we need to like really soak in the horrific. And actually, it's similar to when she does go home and ends up killing Margaret. They do the same crucifixion death that De Palma does, but yeah, they go a little further. There's a little bit more gore,
lots of more implements being stabbed into her.
Yeah, it's another thing where I just find it so funny that just shows you the time when, like, literally there were like parents groups going, Brian De Palma is a sick man who shows such disgusting imagery. And now because I did just a couple months back, I went through all of his movies actually and was watching them, and all of them would sail by with an R rating and be like, yeah, it's pretty standard for like a horror movie. But at the time people were like, are you fucking kidding me? Like Scarface is the one that is the people, and you go like, you watch Scarface now and you go like, you hardly see anything. Like a chainsaw like disappears out of frame and blood hits Al Pacino. People are like, this sick fuck making this movie, you know?
We sure do live in a society.
It's crazy to think about now that, because you watch this, you're just like, Jesus, this is a lot farther than he ever would have gone. Good Lord. Yeah. And then not only does he crucify, but then they have her pull out all the blades from Julianne Moore. So now she's bleeding out. And then, oh God, a thing that they go farther. This is something from the book, but even farther. Because I did look this up. Because I'm like, what? Sue Snell was maybe pregnant in the book, but wasn't actually pregnant. Isn't that the thing in the book, right? Or she?
So it's ambiguous because she does miss her period. And,
yes.
And Carrie. Oh no, Carrie doesn't say anything to her, but like. They have a moment. They have a moment when because Carrie dies like in her arms or something. But like, then she gets her period once this is all over, and there's like, I wonder if Carrie did that.
That's what it was.
She did that.
That's what it was. It doesn't. We're here. It's like she's gonna have that baby.
Or is she? The movie is not interested in actually following up on that because it's over now.
It's crazy to me because she comes in. Much like the Carrie's been stabbed. She's now crucified Margaret. She's holding her, and she starts bringing the rocks down on the house, which I did think that's another thing. Once again, De Palma's favor. He just goes, "Oh fuck the rocks." She just brings the house down like that. Yeah,
she brings the house down.
Yeah, I don't know why we have to. Yeah, but no, here they're like, oh, because it does feel like they're like, oh, we're gonna mainly do De Palma's movie, but if we can add something quote unquote cooler and more CGI.
Yeah. Okay, this. I don't know if this was if King was doing that on purpose, maybe, but there are lines about like about biblical stoning.
Sure.
So that could have been part of it, but also like
I'm not.
It's easy to miss.
One could, problem, right? Exactly. And then so Sue Snell runs, anyway, she runs to the White House and everything is collapsing around them. And then it freezes for this moment where Carrie's like, it's gonna be a girl.
It's a girl.
Yeah. And then it's like, you live now, and force pushes her out of the house as it's crushed by stones.
Which is it's a really interesting take to have.
Well, because King does this obviously he's literally mirroring the period blood, right, from the beginning and end, so that everything is sort of this like full circle ending of, and then De Palma ended the movie on this note of lingering trauma, right? This whole idea of the classic jump scare of the arm coming out of the grave. And I love the ending of De Palma's movie because it's bleaker than the novel, right? Like it's this Sue Snell's the lone survivor, but like we'll carry with her forever this weight that until you get to Rage Carrie 2, you assume she probably may never be okay. She's actually totally fine. And we'll just
she's more or less all right.
Yeah, and we'll just be unceremoniously killed. Don't like that still. The thing I hate most in Rage Carrie 2.
Not my favorite.
But yeah, the ending of the very end of this thing though. We got to talk about this epilogue because oh Jesus, talk about we're going to reference De Palma but take it a step further and more CGI.
And more CGI.
Yeah, cuz it does end with Sue at Carrie's grave and the spray paint of Carrie White rots in hell.
Which looks So bad.
Looks real bad. This whole thing, this whole thing looks real bad that it makes me think this had to have been a reshoot, and this was all on a green screen stage, right?
Yeah.
All of this
Probably.
feels like it doesn't look like it's lit for outside or anything. This looks pretty shoddy. And
the spray paint looks like it was applied like 10 minutes before they said shoot, or before they said action.
It's like whatever, they had some kind of ending, and then the studio was like, whoa, where's the headstone? You know, you got to go back and shoot that. That's my guess. I don't have any, but that would make sense. And then Sue Snell walks away, and all the leaves start swirling, and I thought, well, that's pretty dumb, but I thought that was going to be the end of it. Oh no, folks! The whole headstone starts cracking apart.
For some reason,
I smell a sequel. I was actually shocked.
The Rage Carrie 2.
But I actually was shocked once again at the restraint to not just have the hand come out at that point.
Yeah.
Jesus. And then some butt rock song plays.
Which, yeah, it's a lot of credits songs really are so bad at fitting the tone of the final scene of a movie, and it's just so, I think about it so much lately.
I agree, because I think the end credit song is maybe your most important song, because that's meant to sum up. We're all standing up. This is the feeling we're supposed to be leaving the movie with. That's your like curtain call kind of song. And yeah, way too many movies whiff entirely. When I see a good one, so often, I just watched the movie Blackberry, which I keep telling people to watch because it's a shockingly interesting story about the creation of the Blackberry. And I'm like, no, I'm telling you, it's actually really interesting. But they had a pitch perfect end credit song. And when that happens, I'm just like, oh my God, yes. It actually reminds me of one of my favorite end credit songs too, which is Baby You're a Rich Man at the end of Social Network. Where I'm just like, yeah, that... nice. That's saying something. Here it's just like Carrie.
Carrie. The one I always go back to is the repeat of the Echo and the Bunnymen cover of People Are Strange from Lost Boys.
A perfect end to a perfect movie. We've you can go back into our Meet the Monsters archive and listen to that, because that movie rules. It's one of the best movies ever. And yes, that one of the best last lines in any movie ever, and that song is perfection. And that, yes, man, you know what? I don't know that it would have been good, but a Joel Schumacher directed Carrie remake would have been a hell of a lot more interesting.
Yeah. Okay. Really? Yeah. I also don't know if it would have been good.
I don't. It probably wouldn't have been good, but it would have been. That's I think that's kind of my reaction to this too. Is maybe even if it wouldn't have been good, I would have liked a director who came in with a more authoritative voice. And perhaps it really is a case, too, where no studio was going to let that happen, and they were going to always go like, well, yeah, but it's got to be Carrie, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. But there's a lot working against this movie, and it's just... I feel like this is one where the cultural sort of opinion of this movie is dead on. It's like, just forget it. Like, it's just... It's so instantly... unnecessary and forgettable. It just doesn't. It's not a disaster, but there's a couple parts of it that I think are pretty disastrous. But it just doesn't work.
It just doesn't work.
Yeah.
Which is it's just a bummer.
Oh wait, one other thing that is randomly in here before the this movie at one point in that first cut had the framing device of the White incident investigation, and there's one element of that in this where Sue is testifying. I don't know what she's testifying in front of.
No, it seems to be implied that it's the White Council, but again, right? Like, that could have been something.
That could have been something. I do have I just clicked on this because there is an alternate ending to this movie.
Oh my God.
I'll just say this. As bad as this ending was, we dodged a huge bullet. So,
oh Christ.
This is on the Blu-ray, apparently. She places the flower on Carrie's grave. It then would have cut to Sue in the delivery room. but instead of a baby, Carrie's arm comes out from her. Yeah. That they shot that.
They shot it.
It's on.
They shot it.
You can watch it on the Blu-ray.
You can watch it.
That's what it says
just
according to the
storyboard.
No, it's there. It was fully filmed. Carrie's arm emerges from between her legs and grabs her.
Where?
I'm just trying to. I need to find the scene because I'm just trying to understand this from a visual standpoint of human teenage, but basically for like a adult woman's arm comes out of another woman's vagina.
Like, does it grab her neck? That's the only thing I could think of. A lot of it would have to come out.
Yeah, like she would be mostly out at that point, right? But yeah, it would have and grabs her or grabs up at her arm, maybe
or like her like. It would have to be a body part. It would be nothing if it grabbed, like, if the hand grabbed, like, the hospital gown or something.
Right. I actually think it should have been, like, the doctor was down there and it grabs the doctor by the throat, right? That's what it should be. And then it goes to the... I can't even... So,
oh my God.
What the fuck is that implying? I am reborn, but literally reborn. As a... And then is the implication the rest of Carrie came out of Sue?
Right, like is that the whole scene? It's not her like waking up from a dream?
Okay, wait. Then there's a quick touch to Sue's mother is holding and trying to awaken her hysterical pregnant daughter.
Okay.
Still is insane.
Okay.
Still is insane.
Okay. Yeah, that's still
So that's an even more of a repeat of the De Palma, but also way weirder.
Yeah, like the choice. I'm still chewing on this a little bit, but like the ambiguity of part of the ambiguity of Carrie possibly giving Sue like a telekinetic abortion is that because part of Sue's character, like part of the reason that she does all of this to, you know, get Tommy to take Carrie to prom and like tries to make up for you know the bullying is that like there's a point, and this is all interior so it's hard to show in a film, which I get,
right,
which is why the pregnancy thing should maybe be cut out like it was.
That's an easy thing to excise.
But so after the tampon incident, the plug it up incident, and like the, you know, punishment for Miss Desjardins is happening, Sue is like has this interior moment of like she can see her whole life stretching out before her if she continues doing the same things she's always done.
Yes.
And she's like, wow, I'm just going to like be stuck in this town for the rest of my life. I'm probably going to marry Tommy. We're going to have 2.5 kids. And I'm just going to be this same person. Like if I don't, like if I just keep going, then that's just going to be my life. And I don't know if I want that. I don't think I want that.
Yeah. And that's a really compelling aspect of the book.
So part of this ambiguity of Carrie, of like her thinking she's pregnant and then afterwards not being pregnant, is like she has this chance now, still, despite the trauma and this whole incident. She still has this chance now to not just be stuck in this mode of her life. Because if she had been pregnant, she probably would have had to have the kid and like still be stuck in all this. So the having her be pregnant and carry like she is pregnant and she is going to carry this child to term, and like in 2013 and 2012 there was like a lot of ramping up of like pro-choice and like abortion stuff, which like as we know is like in a bigger mode now because of the overturning of Roe v. Wade. But like that's kind of when I got into that like pro-choice and like pro-abortion activism. And like I feel like a lot of people like in high school and just out of high school were kind of getting into that too. So like making a choice for the like that is like I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel some type of way about it, but I'm still chewing on it, and it just seems
Yeah.
not great, just to put it
No.
lightly.
No,
Seems like a weird
I think
choice.
definitively not great is absolutely the case.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird and
And also with the like the teen mom, like the MTV teen mom thing was
yeah.
super big during
Yeah.
this too. This sort of like voyeurism and exploitation of pregnant teenagers.
Yeah, it is almost like, can you believe it? Folks, you can't believe what these kids are up to.
Yeah.
I remember that was big here in Oregon when I was in high school. There was a big thing about the massive amount of teen pregnancy in Tillamook specifically. On it,
Yeah.
that was big, and it was the joke always for kids where I live was like, well, yeah, what the fuck else are you gonna do in Tillamook? But once again,
Yeah.
we were 15-year-old monsters saying that, but like, yeah, basically though, it's just like, I don't know, maybe like a conservative community that isn't doing enough to educate kids is what I would look at it now. But yeah, it creates a weird thing. The other thing that as you mentioned that, another thing I'm glad you mentioned the scene at the beginning when they're throwing the tampons on her in the shower, they have Sue be much less involved in that and actively also go over with Miss Desjardins, to which I'm like, that also feels like a miscalculation of the movie. Because it should be that Sue does sort of join in the mob mentality, and then, like, De Palma makes a point of even, we talked about that, I love that, I think Sue is the only person who gets a single shot of doing that.
Yeah.
And it isolates her, and Miss Desjardins is the only one in that movie goes like, and you're doing this, Sue? And it forces Sue to go like, well, maybe I should be better than this. And that, that's one of those small filmmaking touches that's just like, yeah, that creates an arc. Here, having her already be mostly nice is like, well, yeah, then they're just, her and Tommy are just nice. Which they are in the book, but they should be like, but they should be popular kids who are more like, oh God, we never thought about this until now. They're the only people with like a conscience who are like, oh, wait a minute.
Yeah. And yeah, because like you put it perfectly, like it just removes any character arc.
Yeah. I think that's a lot of what I react to about Sue in this. It's almost because it's reactionary to the original movie. It almost just goes like, well, Sue's the good one, so we'll just have her be the good one from the start. She's always nice to Carrie. And you're like, yeah, but that doesn't then she has no reason to do anything she does. And yeah, I have no idea what her still being pregnant at the end of the movie, regardless of this insane alternate ending. I don't even that it's a girl. I don't even know what the fuck. What am I meant to take? I have no idea what Carrie is feeling in that moment. What, like, is it meant to be like that kid can be not me because you're a nice person? That's kind of what I take it to, right? Is like, it's a girl and she'll be a girl unlike me because you're nice, Sue. And also, some part of that hunky sweet Ansel Elgort will live on.
Yeah.
That's the other
Tommy
thing I
will
thought.
survive.
That's what I thought
like
about. Yeah.
Mostly is like
This-
a piece of Tommy will survive in you, so I'll save you.
Which
is
I-
also really not. It's kind of gross.
The
It's kind of gross.
the lionizing of Tommy in this, who is always presented as a nice, likable character, but in this is like, oh no, he is dead. Everyone must pay for this. And then, oh, thank God, some part of him will live on. What? Yeah, like I said, suddenly it's just like the most wonderful man. Yeah, it's really weird.
And it's like,
and
I don't know,
actively,
he's an 18-year-old boy.
He's
Listen,
like, yeah.
even the nicest of them ain't that great.
no, and that's what that's the exact opposite of what I was saying. I actually liked an Elgor's performance. Is he's still kind of like a moron because I was just watching something they talk about like, the teenage male mind before 25 basically useless. Yeah, it's just like he's still like an idiot. He's just not a monster like the rest of them.
Yeah.
But yeah, all of a sudden in this, it's so weird that this is pre-Fault in Our Stars because that's all about lionizing this dying perfect boy. So it's so interesting that the next thing he does is like, no, the most wonderful man. And also, in my defense, once again, I know this is shocking. I never saw that movie. So I know big shot people go like, you must have. Yeah, sure. I love Fault in Our Stars. I'm the exact target audience for that. I was an adult man at the time going, yeah, I really want to see these dying kids fall in love. I was more like, oh wait, Defoe's in it? That would be the only reason I was interested. But all right. So yeah, just big skip on this one. You really,
Yeah.
I just have nothing. I have no major reaction to this. It is bad. It is. I think it is bad, right? Like it's not horrible, but it's definitely on the side. It leans towards bad.
Yeah.
For me, at least.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't think.
Also, I think the other thing that that was odd to me, that an odd point of updating it but not really, is did you guys have at your high school, did they have gender segregated
they
PE
did not.
classes?
They absolutely
did
not. That also did feel like a real no, not at all. Yeah. They would gender segregate certain things in my gym class. It was like because I try to remember. I don't actually know. But there's one time I distinctly remember that, and welcome to story time from high school, folks.
Yeah.
That,
no, I got one of my own. So
yeah, that they sent all the girls off to do some activity, and then unsupervised. This is real bad, and probably they'd be glad that this didn't lead to like a lawsuit. Unsupervised, they just gave all of us boys hockey equipment. We just beat the shit out of each other.
Yeah.
Like, we just wailed on each other. Because it was the most no-holds-barred fucking blood sport hockey event. And not on ice or anything, of course, right? We're just in the fucking gym with
like
the...
field hockey, right?
Yeah, basically, yeah. And, like, I fucking took, like, a hockey stick to the mouth and shit. Like, yeah, God. It was, yeah. Oh, it's amazing. Nobody was killed, like, really. Like, it, but, yeah, and it was just, like, I don't know what it was. I'm trying to remember what was, like, we're going to take all the girls over here. Or I remember in middle school there was a thing, too, where it's, like, the girls are going to go learn dance and the boys are gonna wrestle, and I think I was being the kid I was like, I'd rather dance. Wrestling is tough. This is violent.
That's really interesting, because even in middle school it was completely like intramural. Is that what the word is?
Yeah.
Everything we did, everybody did.
Yes.
Like even in high school, like listen, I tried to take I only took as much PE as I was legally required to.
You know what? I actually went and had to meet with the administration about not doing whatever the last, like getting an at-home, someone will sign off that I did some exercise. Because I was just like, I think
this is untenable.
Yeah. Well, I always ended up in PE classes with like kids from the football team and stuff too. Or cheerleaders or whatever, and so it was always just like I never had any friends, which I think made a big like if fucking Gergoni or Lissman were in my PE class, it would have been a different thing. But it was always just like I don't want to play softball, or like I don't like this. Yeah.
But so like the PE classes, I tried to take ones that were just like generalized fitness or like individual dual sports or whatever.
We called it life sports, was the class that life sports.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so like, yeah, it was just, if we did ever split off, it was, if you want to go do this thing, go do that thing. If you want to go do this thing, do this thing.
Yeah.
So like, even we would play like soccer, and it was intramural. Like,
right.
So that was what was weird to me.
Yeah.
Obviously the showering in high school, I just cannot.
No.
The showers in high school locker rooms are vestigial at this point, or they're for like the actual sport team. Kids.
There was never nobody ever took a shower, and I remember my dad being baffled by that. Like, just like, what do you mean you don't take a shower?
My parents were.
Yeah, it's just like, no, we just you would go in. I think I only changed. I even the like locker room for gym, I would just put on like different pants. It wasn't even like a change. I would put on just like sweatpants or whatever, and then just that was it. There was no like change into the full gym clothes. It was just I'd change out of jeans into like shorts or whatever, and then it was a real quick. I was in and out of those locker rooms in a second.
Yeah, well, because they don't really give you enough time. It's like 4 minutes to get to your next class.
And yeah, the concept of it's such a movie thing. Any movie I see where kids are showering in high school or whatever, you're just like, that's completely foreign to me. Nobody,
Yeah.
like I
So
said, it wasn't,
like,
and no
again,
one did it.
It could still happen. I have no idea.
Yeah.
It's just, it's absolutely baffling.
Yeah.
I'm convinced that nobody
Yeah.
has ever, from like 2000 on,
Yeah.
wasn't a thing that happened.
I think it's, if it does still happen, I think it's rare. I think our experience is more the norm. Let's turn now to oh yeah.
I guess the other thing that I think would have been a more interesting take to the modernization of bullying is that it is not, it can be gendered for sure, but like I was bullied by a group of guys in middle school.
Yeah. Oh,
like it would have been interesting to see like more of a just like updating that, because like
it just feels
people
like
get bullied by
anybody. At every turn they're just like they're on the path of the 76 movie, and then they'll like kind of veer up and they're like, no, get back to that movie, folks. And you're just going like, then what's if this was really meant to be like, so much of the press for this was Carrie for a new generation, it doesn't feel like that. It still feels like and that. I do think I was looking at the box office because we were talking about it was very successful. It was not super successful in America. It made the bulk of its money in foreign territories, which I don't know how to read that, but I think is interesting.
Yeah,
because it made 80 million total, but only 35 of that came from U.S. box office. So a considerable difference.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's how people in other parts of the world view American high schools.
That could be that. I think also it's a case where movies used to not travel as much, so they may not have had a Carrie to compare it to. I know that's like, because they talk about like, why doesn't Star Wars do well in China? Because they never got the original movies. It's like a big thing there. There isn't a nostalgia for it, so they're just space movies over there, which is interesting to me. There's any number of reasons. Also, just like special effects stuff tends to do better in foreign territories because that kind of doesn't need translation, I guess. Like CGI heavy movies tend to do better because just like people getting destroyed at a prom or whatever, even if they don't have context for prom, the girls flying around.
That's true. That's not a bad point.
Yeah. I don't know. As I said, there's any number of reasons, but yeah. And the like, it has like a 44% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes, Yeah, it's just like, I just don't think people dig this movie. I think people are still, once again, renting the De Palma movie. I really do think still the movie at sleepovers for scary movies is the De Palma one, which is great. I'm glad that young people still have some sense of like, this is a better movie. I mean, kids still are scared by like the Kubrick Shining movie and stuff like that. So let's turn to a segment we love called What Does Uncle Stevie Think? This is short, but here's what Uncle Stevie thinks. This is from the IMDb trivia. Stephen King was unenthusiastic about another adaptation of the novel, saying he thought it was unnecessary when the 76 version was a great film that didn't need to be remade. He stated after viewing this version, he was, quote, not fond of it.
Yeah.
Very simple on that one. You just
asked and answered.
One other, I just see this here, the other person they really chased for Margaret White in this was Jodie Foster, who I can't fathom saying yes to this.
Yeah.
Not in a million years. People do point out that it's very funny, of course, that Julianne Moore did this when she also took over the role of Clarice in Hannibal. Also, a good call not to be involved in that, Jodie Foster, because that movie is... There's some weird shit I like in that movie, but it's not a good movie. Aside from Gary Oldman's performance, which is fucking insane. And one other quick trivia piece from this, because I saw this. I was reading a lot of the trivia on this last night. So, Ansel Elgort is a full foot taller than Chloe Grace Moretz, so he is literally hunched over in every single scene he's in with her.
Okay.
Yeah, having worked with people of various heights on film, that can be a problem.
Just get her a box.
Yeah. That was the solution I came to. But I like all the money for like CGI, and they're just like, Man, we don't have any boxes. We can't afford any boxes, though.
We spent all our box money. We transferred the box funds to the CGI because we didn't think we need a box.
Yeah. Well, I need any boxes here. Okay. So I have here, of course, our high and low audience reaction segment. The low end, I think we pretty much is right in line with us here. So this comes to us from IMDb user Mike Wright 75. Titles the review simply awful. This remake was very disappointing and highlights how you cannot mend something that isn't broken. The original movie was fast-paced, character-oriented, with a style and mood unique to that movie. It managed to capture Carrie's isolation, her fear and shyness, her tentative reaching out for normalcy. This was a fiasco of poorly paced, poorly characterized, and grossly miscast mishmash of baloney. For starters,
try saying that's 5 times fast.
For starters, the casting was dire. I love the words this guy uses. We have Carrie, a beautiful, pouty, nubile girl with who no red-blooded male in his right mind is going to avoid like the plague. Her mother, slightly loopy, but not enough to make us fear for Carrie's life. Don't quite agree on that. She's pretty fucking awful in this. But the evil Chris, who has about as much character and charisma as a plate of cold fries. ... Need I go on? Each character was just a pale ghost of the original and nurtured not 1 ounce of sympathy or connection from the viewer. The final denouement, which had a hell of a lot to live up to, was disappointing in the extreme and barely worth watching. I feel cheated after seeing this movie, but I can only blame myself for even going there. The original is a masterpiece of filmmaking, a classic that cannot be bettered. Leave it alone. 1 out of 10 stars.
I don't think they needed to use as many big words to show how smart they were.
That's
overall.
classic. But in general, that's my feeling. Now, here's an interesting one. This comes to us from IMDb user. This might indicate where this is going. IMDb username Carrie White 2013. This is a person who likes this movie enough that their whole IMDb identity is based on it.
It's their personality.
Yeah. And the review is titled "One of the Best Films Ever!" ! Exclamation point. Heartbreaking like no other, and much better than the '76 version. This is the best film I have seen in 21 years. Okay. I don't know if they're saying they're 21 years old or they just haven't seen a good movie in 21 years. I don't know. But that is how incredibly good it is. This is the most heartbreaking film imaginable. Incredibly touching, and one that makes anyone with a heart feel the biggest humanly possible amount of empathy and sorrow for its main character, who is abused by everyone. If this film doesn't break your heart, you don't have one. I was not even interested that much on watching it when it came out, as I didn't think it would be better than the 1976 version, which I used to like a lot. But once I saw it, I realized that this one is better on every single aspect. Acting, especially by Chloe Grace Moretz and Julianne Moore, who are both phenomenal. Directing by Kimberly Pierce. Screenplay mainly adapted by Roberto Aguirre-Sacasa. Score incredibly haunting by Marco Beltrami. By the way, actually, that's a good point that they bring that up, because I really like Marco Beltrami, but this score made zero impression on me at all.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you anything about it.
And the original score is great, once again, to just keep talking about it. And special effects. And especially if you like the masterpiece of a book by Stephen King it is based on. This film makes you feel for poor Carrie Wyatt, while the 76 version nauseatingly tried to make you feel scared about a poor, bullied, innocent, sensitive, and damaged soul who had been horribly abused by everyone around her for her whole life. Thus, this version stays far closer to Stephen King's 1974 book than the 76 version, including on the character of Carrie herself, who is far more vocal in this version. Just like the book, I love this, just like the book, parentheses, which I have read. Also, Chloe Grace Moretz looks far more like the character in the book, as described by King himself, than Sissy Spacek, which looks nothing like the character and acts far better as well. That's so wrong. In fact, no version has actually really looked like what King describes.
Like, hey, bud, are you saying that you think Chloe Grace Moretz looks like a toad and a cow?
Yeah.
Because, like, that's not the own that you think it is.
No, it's really, I just think that's, I don't know what book they read. I find this film extremely timely and important in terms of showing the horrific effect as seen on the character poor Carrie, who goes past the breaking point due to the abuse received of one of the most devastating acts someone can go through, bullying. In this film, Carrie uses her telekinetic powers to retaliate against her bullies, but this only differs from real life in the use of that ability instead of firearms, with the latter being used on so many high school shootings where bullied kids go past the breaking point due to the abuse they take and decide to retaliate against their abusers and end their own lives, as they feel these are so miserable they aren't worth living. Like one of the characters in the film says about Carrie, we pushed her, and you can only push someone so far until they break. The theme of the film is more timely these days as bullying has gone past the school or high school and onto the internet, where it goes on 24/7. 10 out of 10 stars. I wish it did that. Like we were talking about.
I do too.
Yeah.
Listen, I don't know what movie. They must have shifted into another universe too.
Because I want to see the movie this person is describing.
I would love to see whatever it is that they saw.
Yeah, it's crazy to me because and unlike 76, they are right in that we know the psychological effects and the violence it can lead to, although that is often overstated in school shootings, of course, as we know. That's not always the case, and this generally sort of like, but still, we know the certainly the violence towards oneself that can happen. And yeah, I think one of the biggest problems with making the Carrie about online bullying, though, is Margaret White would never let Carrie have access to the internet.
Right, that's the thing, is like that was part of the like including the online like uploading of the video that didn't make sense. Is Carrie doesn't know how to use a computer until
they have to show, and that's the thing about when they, because we did briefly, when they show the YouTube video of her in the shower at the prom, you're like, that's bad. But I'm not sure that really matters now that she's covered in pigs. You know what I mean? Like, sort of thing where you just go like, it's just like, is this to imply she wouldn't have killed everyone with just the pig's blood? That was the final straw? Weird choice.
Like, if those incidents had been reversed, like if the video started playing, and like that is kind of what distracted Miss Desjardins and like whatever, and then the pig's blood happened, like that would have been more impactful.
Agreed. If you were gonna do that, I agree. Trying to fix movies here, folks.
Trying to fix movies. I mean, and listen, hey, it's a good thing I'm not evil, because
yeah. Oh boy. Yeah. Anyway, I think things are gonna look up for us next week as we head into the realm. We're returning to the world of It. And getting to the modern adaptations we're starting off with It Chapter 1 with Andy Muschietti's much spoken of, much praised, extremely financially successful. Yeah, extremely financially successful. Kind of restarted this like Stephen King. I mean, not that he's ever not been popular, but has definitely reignited this wave of adaptations. So I do feel like we're sort of entering the next phase of Stephen King that this movie didn't kick off, you know.
No, yeah, it seemed like this was an attempt, but not until and really it was Stranger Things, I think, that kind of incited the return to the Stephen King well, so to speak.
Definitely. That was and like a lot of stuff, it's interesting to see when something that isn't a direct adaptation but is inspired by Stephen King and carries so much Stephen King DNA in it, like Stranger Things. And interestingly, on that note, the Duffer Brothers wrote a draft of, and at one point were maybe going to direct it. So, which in some ways is like one of those things where it's like, was that just too obvious though? Because they're kind of already doing a version of It with Stranger Things, and there is a Stranger Things kid in It. So,
in It, yeah.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about that. I do really like this movie. But that'll be next week on the show as we head into the more modern. I do think, we've shifted through our sections here. Now we're entering the modern era of King. But that is going to do it this week. Of course, if you want more from this show and all the shows on the Punch Up Entertainment Network, you can head over to our Podbean Patreon page, which is patreon.podbean.com/punchup. Like I said, cool exclusive bonus content as well as help support all the shows on the network. But that is going to do it for this week's episode of the IP Squad. Until next week, the case file is closed.
Hi. My name is Stephen King. I'm going to scare the hell out of you, and that's a promise.